You know, there are some stories, they just really stick with you. These narratives that seem to defy any kind of logical explanation, and they leave this lingering chill. It really taps into that deep human fascination we all seem to have with the unexplained, those dark corners where logic just kind of breaks down. So today, what we want to do in this deep dive is really just unfold a series of these true unsettling narratives. We're going to tell you about cases where people vanished, basically without a trace, where really strange things happen. And, you know, despite investigations, sometimes quite extensive ones, the truth just remains hidden, shrouded in mystery. And it's important to remember, these aren't just stories, they're real-life enigmas. They continue to haunt the people involved, leaving this void, you know, full of unanswered questions. We'll lay out the known facts, the perplexing circumstances as they happen. We want the unsettling nature of the unknown to speak for itself. And just a heads up for you listening, in this deep dive, we're keeping things serious. We won't be using any humor or making light of these topics out of respect for the gravity of these situations. Okay, so let's start with the vanishing of Kevin Nguyen. Kevin was 25 years old. He went missing in the early hours of December 9th, 2018. The last anyone saw him was after some kind of altercation at the Brass Rail Bar on Broadway. The search effort started pretty quickly. That following Sunday, nearly 150 volunteers, family, friends, they all gathered at Lakeside Park. They searched meticulously, you know, the banks of the St. Joseph and St. Mary's rivers, the whole area around the Brass Rail, just looking for any sign. But then the following Thursday came the first really unsettling discovery. Kevin's broken glasses. They were found in the bar's parking lot. Now, his family was very clear about navigating around without those glasses. Finding them broken like that, well, was a very bad sign. Adding to the confusion, management at the Brass Rail told the family Kevin had actually entered the bar 4 separate times that night. And then there was surveillance video from an Arby's down the road. It showed Kevin walking alone past the restaurant, once around 1:40 a.m. and then again around 2:45 a.m. So you have these pieces, the video footage went to detectives. But 2 long years went by. No word. Nothing. And the family's hope, understandably, just faded.
It's true that often the first thought is, you know, maybe he stumbled into the river. It happens. But the fact that his body was never found, despite all those searches, well, that raises a really important question. If he had drowned, wouldn't he have surfaced? Or washed ashore somewhere? The continued absence of the body suggests, well, it's just something else might have happened. Maybe he never even reached the river. Or perhaps, chillingly, someone ensured he wouldn't be found.
Exactly. It leaves this huge question mark. And so the mystery of Kevin Nguyen just endures. It's just this empty space where answers should be. So Kevin's case is that chilling void of someone just vanishing. But sometimes, even when someone is gone, they leave behind this unsettling presence. Things happen that just defy logic. And that brings us to our next case, which is truly bizarre. The strange deliveries received by a young girl, Michaela Lawrence. This was back in 2002. Michaela was only 12 years old when her family got the terrible news that her father had died in a car accident, a fatal one. The accident was apparently so severe that his body was described as barely recognizable. Because of that, the family decided on a closed casket funeral. Then, weeks after the funeral, these strange things started happening. Small packages, anonymously sent, began arriving at their house, always addressed specifically to Michaela. Every few weeks, another one would appear. The first package, it contained a small knickknack. It was a decorative, glow-up Big Ben clock statue. Michaela's mother knew it instantly. It was something from their own home. A few weeks later, another package. This one had an old antique stopwatch inside, from the 1950s. Didn't work. And again, her mother recognized it. It looked disturbingly familiar. And critically, none of these packages had any sender information, no return address, no clue where they came from. But the delivery, that was just the most chilling. It arrived a few weeks after that, on Michaela's 13th birthday. A card in an envelope addressed to Michaela. It looked like a normal birthday card. But her mother, well, she instantly recognized the card itself and the handwriting inside. It was her husband's handwriting. Her husband, who was supposed to be deceased. And the signature, "Love, Mom and Dad." It was a card they had given Michaela years before that really solidified it for her. These items arriving, they were from their house. They were her husband's things. She had this horrible realization. She immediately went to check the safe they had in the bedroom closet to see if anything else was gone. But the combination, it just wouldn't work anymore. No matter how many times she tried, the safe wouldn't open. It was like the combination had to been changed. So she went straight to the police, told them about these packages, the card, the safe, that, their hands were kind of tied. There wasn't clear evidence of a specific crime, no obvious suspect. And since the items seemed to be from their own home, well, it highlights a really frustrating part of cases like this. Authorities often struggle when there isn't an immediate, tangible threat or a clear perpetrator. Families can feel so isolated with these terrifying unknowns.
Yes, and that specific aspect is what really stands out here. How could someone not only get their hands on these deeply personal items, but also seem to know incredibly intimate details, like the family's life, even their safe combination? It suggests a really disturbing level of access and intent. It feels like more than just theft. It feels like a psychological intrusion, maybe aimed at tormenting the family in a very specific, intimate way. It's a profound violation.
And to this day, nobody knows who sent those packages or how they got those items or changed that safe combination. It's just a complete unsettling mystery. Okay, so from unsettling deliveries, we turn now to a case that's defined by a series of really enigmatic phone calls. Our third story involves Frau Klebs. She disappeared on June 20th, 2006, from Paderborn, Germany. Tragically, her body was found almost 4 months later, October 4th, 2006. But the circumstances around her disappearance are just shrouded in mystery, especially because of the contact she supposedly made after she vanished. So her last known evening, it started around 9 p.m., her mother dropped her off at a place called the Old Triangle Irish Pub in downtown Paderborn. She was meeting friends to watch football. She was texting, apparently, until her phone battery died. She borrowed a friend's battery for a bit, then gave it back before leaving the pub around 11 p.m. The assumption was she walked home. She reportedly only had about €5 on her, and her flat was only about a mile away. But nobody saw her after she left the pub. And her flatmate, Chris, he said she never made it home that night. But then, the first contact after she disappeared. At 12:49 a.m., so less than 2 hours after she left the pub, her roommate got a text message from Frau's phone saying she'd be back late. She didn't show up for work the next day. Her mother realized she wasn't in the apartment and reported her missing. And then, over the next few days, the mystery just deepened. Frau contacted her roommate 5 more times by cell phone, actual calls. These calls were usually short, mostly in the evening, and they contained very little real information about where she was or what was happening. In the first few calls, she apparently hinted she'd be back soon, but when asked questions, she was evasive, mysterious. But then came the call that is just bone-chilling. It was the evening of June 27th. Frauke's sister happened to be there with a roommate when the phone rang, and her sister asked her directly, "Frauke, are you being held against your will?" And apparently Frauke said yes, but then immediately, almost like she was forced, corrected herself in a louder voice, saying no. After that call, all contact stopped.
That one moment, that yes, then no. It's possibly the most critical detail in this whole case. It's heartbreaking, really. It offers this tiny, fleeting glimpse into what might have been her reality. It strongly suggests she wasn't just missing, but was likely being held captive, and possibly coerced or monitored during those calls. It paints a picture of extreme psychological pressure, a desperate attempt to signal for help, immediately shut down.
Wow, so you're saying that tiny shift, that yes, quickly turning into a louder no, could actually reveal more than all those other short, evasive calls combined? Like a whisper of the truth breaking through the control.
Precisely. It's like the mask slipped just for a second, and then you add what the police found out. During these calls, her cell phone signal was traced. It wasn't staying in one place. It was moving through various industrial zones around Paderborn. Police figured the calls were likely made from inside a moving car, driven to those specific areas. That movement, hitting different industrial zones, suggests a deliberate effort to hide her real location. It implies someone else was controlling not just her speech, but her physical movements too.
It's just terrifying to think about. And to this day, the case of Frau Klebs remains unsolved. All right, from those disturbing phone calls, we now turn to the truly bizarre final days of Jack Wheeler. Now, Jack Wheeler wasn't just anybody. He was a man of significant stature, held numerous important positions over his life. He was chairman for the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, a senior planner for Amtrak, an official with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Quite a resume. His prominence just made his disappearance and death even more perplexing. He disappeared on December 28, 2010. Last seen getting off an Amtrak train near Wilmington, Delaware. There were a couple of subsequent sightings. On December 30th, he was seen at 10th and Orange Street in Wilmington. Then, the tragic discovery. December 31st, New Year's Eve, his body was found by a landfill worker. It actually fell out of a garbage truck onto a trash heap at the Cherry Island landfill. His death was later ruled a homicide. The cause was assault and blunt force trauma. Investigators tracked the garbage truck's route for that day. All its pickups involved large commercial dumpsters in Newark, Delaware, which was just a few miles from Jack's home. But what makes Jack Wheeler's case so incredibly baffling, so unsettling, is his behavior in the days before his body was found. Starting around December 29th, he was seen at the Newcastle County Courthouse parking garage, and he was apparently extremely disoriented. He was only wearing one shoe. He tried to walk into the garage, saying he needed to warm up before paying his parking fee. He also claimed his briefcase had been stolen. He insisted he wasn't intoxicated, but the parking attendant didn't believe him. It turned out his car was actually found later, parked in a completely different garage. This courthouse sighting, this was the last time he was captured on CCTV. Later that same day, he went into a pharmacy in Newcastle and asked the pharmacist for a ride to Wilmington. He apparently looked upset. The pharmacist offered to call him a cab, but Wheeler refused and just left. Then on December 30th, he was seen just wandering around various office buildings. Several people noticed he seemed lost or confused and offered help, but he refused all assistance. Just kept moving, seemingly disoriented.
The profound disorientation Jack Wheeler showed in those last days, that's perhaps the most critical element here. You have this man with this incredibly prominent background, suddenly appearing disheveled, erratic, confused. The contrast is jarring. It forces you to ask, what caused this? Was it a sudden severe medical issue? Was he drugged? Was he disoriented for another reason, maybe even being pursued or threatened? The change in his behavior was so dramatic, so out of character for him, it really demands an explanation that goes beyond just being lost or confused. It points towards either a rapid and severe internal decline or maybe significant external influence leading up to his tragic and, frankly, inexplicable death.
And like the others we've talked about, this case has never been solved. The questions surrounding Jack Wheeler's final days remain unanswered. Okay, for our final case in this deep dive, we look at the truly baffling disappearance of Brian Schaffer. Back in 2006, Brian Schaffer was an Ohio State student. He went into a bar one night and simply never came out. He was out with two friends. They went to this place called the Ugly Tuna Saloona. Now this bar, it had a main entrance at the front and a back entrance used by staff and maybe bands. Both entrances had security cameras. Around 10 p.m. that night, Brian called his girlfriend just to tell her he loved her. A little while later, he's seen on camera entering the bar. At some point, he steps outside briefly, talks to two young women, and then goes back inside the bar, all caught on camera. Then comes the critical moment. It's getting late, almost closing time. The bar is clearing out. Brian tells his two friends he's going to quickly talk to the band playing there. He walked away from his friends, towards the stage area, out of their sight. His friends waited for him by the exit. And waited. He never reappeared. He was never seen again. Now, this wasn't a huge, sprawling bar. The band later said they didn't remember talking to him. And the most crucial point, the security cameras at both the front and back entrances never recorded him leaving. The details just get stranger. There was an FBI agent assigned to the case who specialized in facial recognition. He spent hours just meticulously analyzing the security footage from that night. He watched every single person who entered and exited the Ugly Tuna Saloona. He never saw Brian Schaffer leave. Years later, this same agent, no longer on the case, was at an Ohio State football game. He spotted someone in the crowd who looked so much like Brian Schaffer, it gave him chills. He actually went over and approached the person. Turned out, it was Brian's brother. It just proved how good the agent was at recognizing faces and reinforced that he hadn't missed Brian leaving the bar on that tape. And then, as if this case wasn't already impossible enough, there was the phone call incident. Brian's girlfriend, understandably distraught, called his cell phone every single day for weeks after he disappeared. Every time. Straight to voicemail. Which is what you'd expect, right? If the phone is off or the battery's dead. Until one night, she called, and instead of voicemail, it rang. It actually rang 3 times before clicking over to voicemail. How is that possible? An unexplainable event, given he was gone and the phone presumably dead or off. So, expert, you have this complete lack of evidence of him leaving the bar on camera, which seems almost impossible, and then this inexplicable phone ringing incident. It just builds this wall of history. But what's the significance of that unique lack of evidence?
Well, the absence of Brian on any exit camera footage, especially from a place described as relatively small with multiple cameras, it fundamentally challenges how you'd normally investigate a disappearance. It really implies one of two deeply chilling possibilities. Either he managed some kind of impossible unseen exit, which, considering that detailed FBI analysis, seems incredibly unlikely, or the far more unsettling possibility. He never actually left the bar. Something happened to him inside that establishment. That forces investigators to consider scenarios they might not otherwise. And the phantom phone ringing, it just compounds the anomaly. It adds another layer that defies any simple, logical explanation in a missing person case. It's It's like he vanished within a closed system, leaving only these strange digital echoes.
So no one knows what happened after he walked away from his friends. No one knows how he could have left that bar, or even if he ever did leave. To this day, nobody knows where Brian Schaffer is. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, the enduring nature of these unsolved mysteries is just so stark, isn't it? Each case we looked at, they're all distinct, different details, different circumstances, but they all share that common thread: unanswered questions, lingering uncertainty, that feeling of incompleteness. And it's important, I think, to reflect on the profound impact these kinds of unresolved events have on the families, on the communities. They leave behind this chilling void. These stories, they really serve as a stark reminder of just how fragile that line is between the known and the unknown, how easily life can just disappear.
And maybe that leaves a question for you, the listener, as we finish up. What is it about these kinds of stories that you find most unsettling or thought-provoking? Is the sheer bizarreness of some details, like, a safe combination suddenly not working, or someone literally vanishing from a room full of cameras? Or is it more the profound chilling impact of never knowing, that lack of resolution for the people left behind, that void of not knowing what resonates most with you?
Yeah, it's something to think about. We really encourage you to reflect on these stories, maybe ponder those hidden truths that might just never be uncovered. Thank you so much for joining us on this.
Well, this unsettling journey into the depths of the unknown today. We hope you'll come back for more explorations of knowledge and insight here on The Deep Dive. And hey, if you found this exploration compelling, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel, Horror Docs. It really helps us continue bringing these stories to light.